Hi guys and welcome back to Christian Cast where I build baits so you don't have to. Today we're going to be focusing on our 3D printed soft plastic silicone mold for the Trout Grub. You also saw the video already on the detail step-for-step tutorial on how to construct the mold itself. If you haven't seen that, I'll pop it up here or there and you can check it out. It's really a step-for-step guide how you can use easy functions in a 3D printing software to actually create a mold like I did. And the second video was a casting video where I also went into the changes I'm going to do in this video because we straight away noticed a mistake in the form filling of our mold. So we'll go into that a little bit today as well. Um, as you see, I was actually quite happy with the performance of the form itself, so we won't be looking into changing the Trout Grub itself, but we'll be changing how the liquid or how the silicon fills the form and how it gets vented. So that's going to be the focus of today's video. We also straight away printed a new mold that we're going to take over and also cast straight away in this video. I won't be doing a two-parted version for this because we're just going to go through the changes quite quickly and look at what I did and how you can actually optimize the form, and then we'll see if that actually helped or if we have to change something else. So I'll straight away pop you guys over to the desk and we'll take a look at what we changed and how we are hoping the liquid will flow through the form through the changes that we made, and you guys can then take that over to your own molds and I'll straight away head over and take you guys with. So, welcome back. We are in our drawing software and we'll straight away start with the sketch number 4, where you guys can actually see that the main reason we actually had problems with the material was we dimensioned all these intakes for the material with the same size. That means once the form itself was full with our silicon liquid, as soon as I added the second color, the liquid didn't push past the first entry because the liquid always goes the way of the least resistance, and that means there was less resistance here than pushing past and down towards the last one. So with changing the diameter of the intake with the last bait to be the biggest, we are hoping that we will get a relative flow through the whole form. So I've started straight away with making the first intake at the bottom with our first lure and last one in the mold to be 6 millimeters, 4 millimeters for the middle one, and 2 millimeters for the top. So we are hoping that that actually helps us with filling it more consistently. And something we also changed is the air vents. I didn't draw them straight up. We actually pulled them into the main body because we are hoping that once the color flows through here, we will go here and also be able to, through pushing liquid in through this side, also get a backflow through the tail and just carry out more bubbles. Most probably it would even be better to place it a little bit more forward, but we'll see how it performs today while testing. So that was one of the first changes that I did. I also redesigned the main filling structure because we had to widen it a little bit with the 6 millimeters because I had a bigger entry down here. With the last mold it was by 5 millimeters. We sized it up that we can go down 2 millimeters to each bait. So that was the next thing that I did. And I also then made the entry for our injection that fits a little bit more snug, because if you watched the first video, the second video where I actually cast the lure, you might see that on the injection I put some tape around the nozzle itself that we don't have leakage past the injection and the top of the mold. So I actually just drawed in this a little bit more and made it a little bit tighter, that our injection fits very snugly in there and we don't have a problem and we don't have to add any tape. Hi guys, so welcome back to the workshop. We have got our printed mold and I'm just going to go over once with a fine sandpaper and clean up all the edges just a little bit with the fine, as I said, and then we'll be going over with some super fine sandpaper, just not a lot, cleaning up any stringing that happened or anything, because I don't want to put in too much work into this mold before actually knowing it works well. So I'll clean it up a little bit, that we've got nice channels to cast in and everything. And once we know the mold works well, we'll also maybe go into things you can do to reduce print lines in rounded surfaces, but that's going to be a separate video if you are interested. In the outro, I'm also going to show a other project that I'm going in. I've got a lot of things that I want to do, but the time is more of my problem. So I've actually drawn out a lot of parts to a curing system for my lures, but we'll get into that in the outro. So I'll quickly sand this, clean it off, and then I'll place you guys on the desk with the finished casting material, and we'll give it our first cast, and then also look at the results and also the old mold, and we can then compare the two to each other and see if we actually improved it. So let's get started. I'll pop you guys over as soon as everything's done. So as you guys see, I mixed up the green. I'm gonna keep everything the same as with the last video. I didn't want to change up too much, and that's why we're just gonna stick with the original colors, that we can really compare everything exactly to the other video. So I am gonna draw this up and straight away make sure that we clean off the nozzle, and it should fit a lot better than the last time. And now we'll slowly start injecting our liquid into the form, and as we see, it comes out. So now I can draw it out of this chamber and just flush it just like that. Then we'll swap over quickly and go ahead, make sure that there's not any bubbles, and just flush it a little bit more. Before going ahead, we add these two colors back. We'll draw out the excess liquid out of our chamber, wipe down the top. This has to all go a little bit quicker because we don't want the liquid to set too much. So I clean this off. Now we'll go ahead, change it to our turquoise, and then we'll start adding the next color into the mix. And I'm really interested to see if the mold worked better. We've still got a little bit of leakage, but I don't really care too much. That is also due to me not tightening it even more. So there we go. Now we'll draw up the next color. Make sure that there's no bubbles in that we press into our form, because that is not what we want. And now we will go ahead, place this here, and watch for the first blue hit. So we've got our first blue hit. That means we are still going through the top, but we'll see if I'm able to push some down. It's not the most elegant way to make these lures, but we'll see how it goes. There we go. We'll leave that for today. And I'll make a soft bait out of this one, and we'll see that I straight away do that, and I'll get you guys back once this is hard and we can check how the form turned out. So everything is hardened out. I opened the forms already, took out all the screws because I just want to keep this quite short. And we're just going to look at the result we were able to get with the new mold. I'm quite happy. It's a little bit of a win towards getting a finished soft bait mold, but we'll go through this mold just in a moment. So I just wanted to show you because there was a lot of discussion with open mold casting for trout lures or fishing lures with soft plastics, and the problem is once you have a open surface you always tend to end up with a flatter surface at the top, and it just doesn't look as nice as a injected fishing lure. So I actually decided to try something different. So as you see, this was my first mold. It swims well. I just don't like the general form of the lure itself. So I did some changes, and whoever has been following quite a long time for the soft baits as well already knows that I've got this second mold, and I just actually am taking this up because I took the excess material from the mold with the trout grubs and filled it into the newer mold because I just don't like wasting, and through making a two-colored trout grub, we have excess material that I can then also cast into a separate mold still and get a finished lure. The only disadvantage is that it starts setting a little bit, and it is harder to get a form-filling cast once you then start casting the excess material into this mold. But I just wanted to show you guys that if you compare, I'll put this to the side, if you compare these two molds, the optics themselves are a lot cooler with this one. I find myself, even if there are still the print lines that you see if the light shines against it, that is just because we really took a quite rough mold and always cast it into it just to see how the action is. But the big advantage to this mold is we don't have this big flat surface. I don't really like it that much. It looks clumpy, and with this mold and with this casting channel that I created, we were able to just cut along the top edge and get a rounded surface to the top. So that is something that is really cool for open mold casting. You can actually take this into other molds as well, and you will always have a little bit of a flat surface. You have to see which viscosity your liquid has while casting. Depending on that, you can actually change this channel. I've got this channel at about 1.5 to 2 millimeters. That we still can cast it without having a problem with bubbles coming out or a lot of bubbles gathering in the corners themselves. I tend to still go down with a needle and clean out all the bubbles before it starts setting. But that is a really cool way how you can still get a rounded optic to the top because you then just cut along this edge. But now we'll go to our success of today, I would say, because we have got our trout grub, and as you see, we'll take a look and compare the two versions of the mold to each other. We still aren't there completely, but I'm very happy with the result for today. So as you see, we had the problem that with the casting channel in the old mold being exactly the same in all sets of the trout grub, it actually tended to push through the liquid once we add the second color through the first one. That means that once we put the second liquid in or the bottom mold part is filled, you have too much resistance that the liquid pushes through to the second or third mold, which doesn't really help with flushing out bubbles in the lures at the bottom. As you see, we had a lot of bubbles still in here, also in the second mold, and that is something we don't want. So as I went through in the other video, we decided to minimize these intakes on the top two of the lure, and we go with a step down and another step down to the biggest inlet for the one furthest away from the top. With that, you actually see that the second color was starting to get into the second mold. That means that is already one thing that really helps. We're still not there, and we still have got the color pushing through most in the top portion of the mold itself, but I have already got an idea how we can actually change that. But I am very happy with how this mold casted out. We don't have a lot of air bubbles in the last mold, we don't have a lot of air bubbles in this one, so we really were able to flush out all the air bubbles from the mold itself with the new design of the air outlets, and we are starting to get color into the second mold. So I am now going to design another mold, and I was thinking about variants that how we can increase the resistance for the topmost trout grub, and for the second one that we have the least resistance for the fluid to go through the last lure. I was hoping that through minimizing the intake we are already pretty much done and it would have been a quick and easy fix, but we are going to make a new version of the mold and I'll just show you what I am thinking about. Maybe you guys have ideas as well, but I really think that this will help a lot. So we have got our big intake right here, and we have got the smaller intake right here, and the thinnest intake right about there. And the way you can actually increase the resistance for this one is just adding more distance to our trout grub itself. So that is going to be our trout grub, and then we will pull this one out about to there, trout grub, and this one we will actually keep at the original distance, so that is going to be about our trout grub. I will be adding more and more distance to this, that in the end we will have a mold with a intake here, one about here and one further away there, and we will be putting this at a angle to this direction. I will be aiming for 45 degrees about, and we're just going to test it and see how it actually goes. But that's going to be my changes for the next mold before going into the next casting. So I'll see how that goes. I'll also try and figure out how we can actually take our pattern from the 3D drawing software and tilt it to the side and still have our intakes. And you can then also try around with this angle. You can push it into this direction or into this direction, depending on if you want more resistance or less resistance towards the top form. So we will see how we can get the cavity to fill out evenly throughout the whole mold with adding a second color as well, that we have a consistent flow through the mold itself. That's something that we are going to change, and I'll anyway take you guys with on that. But I'm really happy because I have got 3 fishable trout grubs right here, and that is a win for me. So I am now going to take you guys with into the outro, and we'll just be looking into other projects that I've got for the channel. I've got quite a lot, but we'll see how that goes. And if you're interested, still stick around, see what we got planned on the channel itself. I've got some projects they are started already and some that are completely new, but you'll see that in a moment. Hi guys, and thanks for sticking around for the outro. I am really happy with the result of today's mold itself, with having all the bubbles flushed out. So that is already a big win. We're still gonna try and really push through the second color with adding the changes that we talked about beforehand, and we will just try to really get a consistent flow through the mold. But that's anyway going to be in the next videos. We also looked into what you can do with the excess material. Even if it starts hardening a little bit, you can still actually make things with it. I will take this one out straight away, and I really like its movement. So that is also something really cool. And otherwise, we have got quite a lot of projects on my channel. I don't know to what I should make a video first, because I am making a curing station at the moment. That's one of the bigger projects that I have got on the side. We got this little motor controller. We can set the speed. We might look into adding a little chamber that we can put a sanding agent in to put 3D prints in, and also do the first sanding process with help of the curing station, I would say. And otherwise, we're just going to make this that we can get our clear coats better and more consistent, because as you know, I've been having trouble with my big swim baits, that the clear coat is really a hassle to make. But with this, I am hoping to get a little bit more consistent and even through the whole bait itself. And we'll be testing epoxy, we'll be doing it with UV resin, we'll be just seeing what works best for us. And I'll anyway take you guys with on the build maybe as well. If you are interested, drop a comment, because then I can show you how I designed the casings and everything with the motor, the switches, where I got the parts. You can always ask, because yeah, making a curing station is something that I think every bait builder, if they want to really keep at doing it, should have. And otherwise, I have also ordered one of these silicon mats. So it is a silicon mat that is used for hot stamping, and we will be cutting this into form, and we will make something very easy just with wood, maybe to clamp in and do some hot stamping with foil. So that is a really cool way to add a little bit more depth to your lures, and we're just going to test it, see how it works. I'm playing around with hot stamping foils, but we'll look at that anyway separately. And the last thing, we've actually dropped one of the swim baits I really had a hassle with. The clear coat wasn't as clean as I wanted it to be. I didn't like the paint scheme, so I decided to damage the clear coat and just really see that we get to the base color of the paint. And I dropped it into the tank about 2 weeks ago, and we're just gonna let it sit in there and see how much water the paint itself draws once the clear coat is damaged. Because there are a lot of rumors out there that 3D printed fishing lures aren't as hardy as normal fishing lures, or the only way to make fishing lures is with wood. And we're just gonna test and see how strong actually lures can be, if it draws water, if you get problems with the color itself, or if it is the 3D printed filament. So we'll be looking at that. If the color draws paint, because it's a water-based acrylic airbrush paint, so it will draw water and you can wash it off as well. So we will have a little bit of seepage under the clear coat itself. I am pretty much 100% sure that we will have seepage. There will be some bubbling up, but we will then take it off and also see if it damages our 3D printed filament, or if the sealing process that I go through actually helps the filament not to draw water. And then we will also take that lure and actually really put it into a strength test. We will be banging it around. I'll actually be knocking it on the anvil, seeing how many pounds and things it can withstand. We will also do a test of the hardware itself to see how strong the joint is. I already once did a video towards that. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll maybe drop it up here or there, where I tested the screw eyes in the 3D print because somebody actually asked me how strong they are, how strong the joint is, because they were worried that if a big fish actually takes the lure, it would break the lure anyway. So I just want to show you guys that they actually can withstand more than you think, and just take you with on the journey, and we'll see how that goes. And I'll still leave it in for about another 2 weeks and see then how damaged the lure is through the water itself, and then we'll still go ahead and damage it a little bit more and see how strong it is. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and could take something with, and I'm looking forward to next week's video, and we'll see each other. Keep safe and fishing. Cheers.